just the fact that we just take that intention and say, God, how should we parent this child individually, and how should we homeschool? And so each of those times confirms, I'm so glad that we took the time and the effort and the budget as far as money, but also budgeting of the time, and we have made it a priority in this season of life.
Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, where you'll learn tips and strategies that will empower you to home educate your children. I'm Leigh Nguyen, a homeschool mom of over 12 years, which includes 2 graduates. When I started homeschooling, I was pretty much on my own and was desperate for encouragement and help. My mission is to be a source of encouragement and help to you. Whether you are just beginning your homeschool journey or you're deep into the homeschool lifestyle, Little by Little Homeschool wants to help you stay the course, because all the time you are investing into your children is completely worth it. If you're ready to take your homeschool to new levels, keep listening.
In just a moment, I am going to share 5 things that confirmed the decision to homeschool for our family. But before I do that, I know that often we can pick and choose the episodes that we listen to for a podcast. So just in case you missed Monday's podcast and did not hear the announcement that tickets are currently on sale for Little by Little Homeschool Conference 2025. This will occur on Saturday, October 18th in Syracuse, New York, and you can grab your ticket. I mean, as of recording, there are still tickets available. I have no idea how quickly these are going to go. But if they are still available, you can get them at littlebylittlehomeschool.com/conference, and the tickets will be in the show notes. Let's get into today's episode. As a backstory of a timeline, just to refresh your memory, or if you are brand new here, if you are brand new, welcome. My name is Leigh. I'm so glad you're here. But we have 3 children. My husband and I have been married for 24 years and 3 children, a 22-year-old daughter, a 20-year-old son, and a 17-year-old son. So if you do the math and you look at it, you're saying, oh, okay, she's only homeschooling the last one. Yes, that is correct. And we are nearing the end of his 11th grade year, and the other 2 have graduated. Started homeschooling them. So we're finishing up our 15th year of homeschooling. Pulled my daughter out of public school after 2nd grade and her brother after kindergarten. So it was the same year. So we started homeschooling 3rd grade, 1st grade, and preschooler. And so that is what we have been doing. So looking back now on 15 years, I wanted to share with you just the things that really helped to confirm. Because most likely you are deep in the trenches of homeschooling and you're wondering, is this worth it? Is this something that we should be doing? Is it going to, again, be worth the time, the effort, the money, the investment of all those things, and the emotional toll and the mental toll and the physical toll that it takes upon us as parents? And I did do an episode a little while back about, having that time alone. Why is that so hard that we don't have that time alone? I encourage you to go back and listen to that episode, but we're not promised that when we have children. It's just this really wacky idea, if you stop and think about it, that we have kids and at a certain age, we should send them away to somebody else to halfway raise them. I don't want to say fully, but to teach them apparently everything that they need to know. And that isn't always the things that we always want them to know. So when we decided to homeschool, it felt very radical. I had one family member, an aunt and uncle, who homeschooled their children, and I didn't have a front row seat to it. They lived a little bit away, and I was quite a bit older as well. But I had one friend in town who homeschooled her kids, and of course, you start to homeschool and you get to know others, but it felt really radical at the time. And there was a lot of adjustment that had to be made with family and friends who just didn't quite understand what we were doing. And it would have been easier to, at that time, not homeschool. It would have been easier to try it out and say, no, put them back into school. And everyone would be like, oh, see, we knew that this was the better choice. But we decided from the very beginning, this is what we're going to do. And it really wasn't an option to quit, although at times I wanted to. But now looking back after graduating the 2 and having one almost there, I'm at the end of my journey, and there were times, just like you, I just wanted to give up and didn't know if it was worth the time and the effort. And I've talked extensively and said, yes, it is. There's a lot that goes on during the homeschool years. But think to yourself, am I going to regret this say 10 years from now or 15 years or 20 years, however many years you have until all of your kids are done, or even the first one gets to that point. So 5 things that confirmed our homeschooling. The first one happened fairly soon after we started homeschooling. Well, maybe not. I feel like maybe it was a year or two afterwards. So my daughter was pulled out after 2nd grade. She had a couple of close friends from school, and they were very sweet. And one of them, I called her bosom buddy, just like Anne, from Anne of Green Gables. And I was just like, they just were bosom buddies. And her mom told me, and maybe it was quite a few years later, I don't remember the timeline. Times get blurry. But her mom said to me, "You pulled her out at such a good time because the mean girls started in 3rd grade." My first thought was, why didn't you pull your daughter then if the girls got mean? And she didn't, but I mean, her daughter's still very sweet and very wonderful. But I just was like, oh, okay. She said, yeah, they were all great friends. Everybody in the whole 2nd grade, even if they were in different classes and, because in kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, so for those 3 years, they kind of kept being mixed up into different groups of them as far as their homerooms. But all the girls got along and everything was fine. But she said, yeah, the mean girls started in 3rd grade. And this friend of my daughter's was also just such a sweet and sensitive girl, and she had a really hard time with it. Like, these were my friends. Why are they suddenly mean and making fun of me, and we have cliques and all this stuff? And that just really confirmed it, because my daughter would not have done well with that. I mean, what girl would? I don't think that kids need to be subjected to that. And so that confirmed, thank goodness we pulled her out when we did. The second thing that confirmed the fact that we homeschooled, and we're so glad that we did, is that our kids have been able to experience the real world instead of being sequestered away. They were out in the world with me. Now, I'm going to make a blanket statement. This is just overall blanket statement, because people make blanket statements about homeschoolers and they say, oh, they're so unsocialized. I knew this one, or I knew this one family, or these couple of families. Okay, yeah, there's some families that are just a bit more reserved, more recluse. That's okay. That's fine for them to be, because there's families like that in public school too. But in general, a lot of the kids that I maybe interact with, I just go for a walk through my neighborhood and happen to see them getting off the bus, it's actually rare when I say hello that they even look at me, let alone say hello. I was like, wait a minute. I thought they got socialization during the day. So, I mean, that's just a very tiny example. There's going to be examples of people in all kinds of different educational models where there's going to be people that are more outgoing and not. But I just have not seen the overwhelming evidence within my own life of just being around teens that they are more socialized if they go to public school or private school. And I have just seen that just the experience of being out in the world, as they've gotten older, they're just natural in the world. It's not anything weird for them. Now, this is going to be within reason of their age and their maturity. Does not mean that my 17-year-old maybe he's a little too confident. I was going to say maybe he's not as confident as a 30-year-old, but maybe he is too confident. And I think that my kids also have gone out and they've been very confident in who they are, and they're very comfortable. They can walk into any place and be comfortable and fine, because we've done so many different scenarios as they were growing up. And so it just was like a natural progression. And this does not mean that kids that are in public school or private school, you've listened to me long enough. It doesn't mean that they don't know how to interact in the real world, but it's just as natural. It's just who they are. They interact with people of all different ages. And I was thinking about this just recently. I was in the grocery store and I just kind of looked around and it was literally all adults. I mean, sometimes I do see kids and I'm like, do I want to ask if they're homeschooled? Because maybe they don't. Maybe maybe they called in sick because they just didn't feel like sending the kid to school. And I didn't want them to be like, get all defensive or anything. But when I was just at the grocery store, I'm looking around, I'm like, okay, there's young children that are obviously under the age of 5. And then there's everybody that is over 18. And anybody working at a store or something in my state, you have to be over 18. Like, you have to be in school. You can't get working papers to work during the day. And so there's this massive gap of 5 to, 18 still in school, 17, 18, that is missing out in the world, day in and day out. Really think about that. That's kind of weird, right? So that confirmed the fact that my kids have just been in the world. And so it just is a natural progression to being out in it more and more and more as they have gotten older. The third one is the fact that my kids started to get out into work. Now we've lived in multiple different places. Not a lot of moves, but most of the bulk of their childhood was in one state. We moved to another state when they were between the ages of 7 and 12. So especially for my older two, the bulk of their childhood was in the previous state. And then my youngest one, he's pretty much lived here most of his life. And we first moved here and we lived out in the country, and we started to get to know mostly homeschoolers and some kids from from church. And then we moved 6 years ago back into the suburbs just to get a little bit of margin to our life and to give our kids some more opportunities we saw they wanted. And so it's really been since we moved here and then them starting to get jobs as teens that they have begun to interact with a lot more teens and young adults. But let's focus especially upon the teens that go to public school and work at the same place that they work at. And they'll get into conversations because one of the first questions is they kind of size each other up and they're like, I've never seen that kid before. He must go to. So in the town that I live in, there's 2 high schools that are pretty close. And so they're like, oh, he must go to that other school. But that's kind of weird that I don't recognize them. They just all tend to know each other, I guess. I don't know. We didn't grow up around here, so we don't really know. And so they'll maybe say, oh, what school did you go to? Because maybe they went to another school and they drive in, 20, 30 minutes to get here to work. And they say they're homeschooled. And the kids are like, oh, and they'll ask questions. And the more that my teens have heard about their coworkers' experiences in school, the more my teens are like, thank goodness, like that I was homeschooled. Thank you for homeschooling. And the funny thing is, or not so funny, it's kind of a little bit sad, is that a lot of those teens are like, wow, I wish that I was homeschooled, when they would hear about my kids' experiences. And I was like, oh, I wish that I could just take you home and homeschool you, but I'm not allowed to legally. And I would always say to my kids, tell your friends if their parents want to homeschool, they are more than welcome to get in touch with me. I would gladly help them and show them. And that offer has been taken up 0 times. But the more that my teens who have a wise enough, a mature enough mind and brain to be able to analyze and see things and to think a little bit critically are saying hearing from their coworkers that, oh, I wish I was homeschooled. And they hear about the experiences at school, just little things of like, I only have 5 minutes between classes and the school is so big and I have to use the bathroom. I'm late for class. They don't let you go to the bathroom during class in some of these classes, and just all this stuff, just like little things that my kids really didn't realize that it's taken for granted. They don't have to ask permission to go to the bathroom. You suddenly have an urge, like, you got to go, like, go. Granted, when they're younger, I'm like, let's not use it as an excuse to not do things, but we need to pay attention to our body and take care of bodily functions when they need to occur. And so my teens, by talking to other teens that go to public school, has definitely confirmed, because at times they can wonder, maybe I should go. And that has confirmed that I'm so glad we have homeschooled. All right, 2 more. Number 4. Now, this is not one to say, like, pat myself on the back or anything like that, because I think that a lot of you will resonate with this and hopefully do resonate with this. And this is, it's not me. It is God. God's hand upon our homeschool, God giving us wisdom and guidance and then grace for all the times that my husband and I have failed in our parenthood, and God just coming in and filling in those cracks and those crevices and just giving us the desire to homeschool and the wisdom and the desire to continue through it. So this is all glory to God. The fact that through all of these years of homeschooling, maybe it didn't happen like right away, but I would say at least by the time my kids, my oldest 2-ish, were to late elementary school. I mean, I don't keep track of this, the exact times, and I don't write down, dates and times or anything, because that would be weird. But the amount of people that have gone out of their way to say something to me or my husband about our children and about the evidence that they see of the homeschooling and the intention that is behind that, because we've talked about it. Homeschooling is not academics. It is discipleship as well, and working at their hearts and the maturity that kids can have when they aren't just shoved into a classroom with kids of just their own age. They're called up to something higher. And the amount of people that have gone out of their way over at least the past 10 years to, I want to say compliment, but I'm not patting myself in the back, because I hope that you hear this as well. Sunday school teachers, pastors, just regular people from church, maybe semi-strangers in the grocery store, maybe your adult friends, family members, neighbors, bosses. Just think of anybody. They have most likely at some point, somebody in that category has come up to us and said, wow, your kids are pretty cool. Or you've done a really good job. And we always say, it's all glory to God. And just the fact that we just take that intention and say, God, how should we parent this child individually, and how should we homeschool? And so each of those times confirms, I'm so glad that we took the time and the effort and the budget as far as money, but also budgeting of the time, and we have made it a priority in this season of life. A season of life is coming for me here very soon where I will have 0 homeschoolers, and that'll be a new season. And I look back and I don't regret that. And the fact that that people come and confirm, we just recently had one. My husband has a friend that he knew before he and I even met. They had met, and he was going to be in town. He stayed over one night, and he said something. He took time. He purposely took time to reach out to me. I wasn't around when they left early in the morning. It was a Sunday morning, and so I go for a nice long walk that morning. And so I had seen him the night before and stuff, and I mean, it was just my husband's. Anyway, it was fine. It wasn't rude or anything like that, because they had to quickly get out. It's like, let me get out of your way. I'm going to go for a walk. But anyway, he took the time to contact me and to compliment just like what a good time he had with our kids, and is just, really pleased with how well they are doing. And so, yeah, so it will continue to do. So that when you hear those compliments, glory to God, and just take it as, okay, yes, that's just a little boost that you need to keep going. Number 5, the fifth thing that has confirmed our decision to homeschool and to continue homeschooling now through these 15 years is that it has allowed our children to become unique and independent people, the people that they were meant to be, the people that God created them to be. They are used to doing their own thing. They don't feel that they have to conform. Now, it's also within us that we want to be a part of a group. We don't always want to stand out. But when you are in school, think back to your own school experience. If you went to public or private school, you know that there were certain kids that were cool, there were kids that weren't cool, there were fashions that were in, whether it's for your hair or clothing or shoes. There were parties and get-togethers you wanted to be invited to, and if you weren't, then, you were on the outs, and just all of this, like, it's just this one big group. And so when we homeschool, we can really foster that uniqueness that God has given them. We can help them to become independent and to make decisions that are going to be best. I don't want to say just best for themselves, with also looking at the bigger picture, right? But they're not making decisions, we'll say, in comparison to making a decision just because that's what everybody else is doing. They'll make the best decision that's good for that time, instead of just saying, oh, I'll make this decision because that's going to fit into the crowd. And so these unique and independent people get to go out into the world, and it's not always easy. I remember my daughter, she was not going straight off to college right afterwards. We were going to have her take a gap year, and she was going back to the town where her childhood was. She was going to spend time with that friend that I mentioned way back. And I said, listen, when you get together with these friends and the parents, they're going to be asking you, what college are you going to? What college are you applying to? Because this was the time of the year that everybody was doing that. And she was like, oh, okay. And so I kind of walked her through the scenario. Here are some things to say, so that she could say confidently what she was doing and not feel like she was less than because she wasn't going straight off to college like everybody else was doing. And she came back from that weekend. She went with my husband and came back and said, thank you so much, Mom, for warning me about that and telling me about that and us having a conversation. She said, I would have sat there and looked and felt stupid. But I know, because I know what my decision is, and I'm really confident and excited about that decision, I was able then to portray that to those people as well. And that's a part of homeschooling, is equipping our kids for these different scenarios and talking them through things like interviews and all that kind of stuff. But homeschooling just has really allowed our kids to be unique and independent. And I think that's sometimes why people say homeschoolers are weird, because they march to the beat of their own drum. And it's because we've given them time to be themselves and to be proud, not in a haughty kind of way, but just be like, this is the way God created and molded me. And yes, there's sanctification, but this is the personality that He's given me. And this is the desire and the drive and the way that I am wired to glorify Him in this certain way, whether it's music or science or arts or theology or sports or whatever it is. But number 5 is to just say that the confirmation has been to be able to see that they are strong and unique and independent people. If you are wanting to homeschool, if you're listening to this episode because you want to homeschool, or if you have been homeschooling and you want to homeschool better, I want to encourage you to go over and check out your homeschool blueprint. If you have not done one day of homeschooling, it is so much better to start with a solid plan and foundation. And that's what your homeschool blueprint will give you. And those of you that have been homeschooling, you're saying, well, if this is good for a newbie, then it's probably not something for me. That's wrong, because we can always learn more in our homeschooling. How often do you read another homeschool mom book? When some of my favorite podcasters or homeschool speakers put out a book, I'll buy it. I've been homeschooling for long enough. I don't necessarily need that, but it just encourages me. And so having that your foundation reevaluated, or maybe you never had that foundation put into place, your homeschool blueprint will be able to do that for you. So you can go over to littlebylittlehomeschool.com/blueprint, and the link will be in the show notes for you as well. And I want to encourage you to look for the little and big ways that God is confirming your decision to homeschool.
Thank you for listening, friend. I'd love to connect with you more. You can find social media links in the show notes and share this episode with a friend who could use a boost to her homeschool. See you back here real soon.